Hi there, Regina Sanchez, your spiritual life and health coach, believing in you. Welcome today to my video podcast, Giving You a Fresh Start. I have been doing different teachings the past number of weeks on different segments. I've kind of broken down my series on giving you a fresh start into three different areas. So the first area that I started out was giving you a fresh start with your immune system. The second area was giving you a fresh start with your spiritual life. And now I'm delving into a little bit of my third area, giving you a fresh start with your brain. So those three areas, I feel like, they're not the only areas that are of significant importance to your overall well-being. But I just felt like those were some three areas that I feel led to do teachings on. Giving you a fresh start with your immune system, it's never too late to heal and build up and strengthen your immune system. Never, ever, ever. No matter what's going on, no matter how sickly you can be, what maybe battles of disease and illnesses you're fighting, it is never too late to change your immune system and make it stronger. Giving you a fresh start with your spiritual life. That's never too late. God is always waiting for us. He's always wanting us to just turn our lives and our hearts over to Him. And He wants a relationship with us. I know it's hard for some, but it's never too late to start new in that area. And giving you a fresh start with your brain, something new that I'm going to start teaching on. And today, I have a specific area about the brain, and I'm excited to get started with that. Now, if you would like to go and pause the video, go get your favorite beverage. Today I'm drinking sun brewed iced tea, which is quite delicious. How I do it, I mean, you might know, but for those that don't, is I have a glass pitcher that has a cover on it, and I fill it with my distilled water. I fill it with iced tea bags, and I literally put it in the sun for, I don't know, maybe 3 or 4 hours until it looks like it's brewed. And then I remove the tea bags. I put some fresh lemon in it. I do not sweeten my tea, so I, enjoy it just as it is. But if you like to sweeten it, you could add a little honey or sugar if that's what you prefer. But anyway, if you want to go get your favorite beverage, hit pause and then come back and we'll get started. All right, so my topic today is ways to heal your brain. And for a number of years, it was believed that once your brain was damaged, that there was no way to bring healing to it. That is not true. That is no longer true. There's something new out there called neuroplasticity, which we'll get into, to understand, the healing of your brain. And thanks to doctors like Dr. Amen or Dr. Bresden, there's lots of research, there's lots of studies, and there's lots of therapeutic things they do for their patients to heal their brains, to heal their patients' brains. So let's dive into what neuroplasticity is. But before that, let me give you a little nomenclature here, back from my medical teaching days. So in our brain, we have something called neurons, right? Or a nerve cell. And it's the cell that carries the electrical impulses in our brains, right? And they're used for as a basic building block of your nervous system. And we have up to 100 billion neurons in our brain. And they are specialized to transmit information throughout the body. Then we have something called neurotransmitters, and those are the chemical messengers. So when the neurons can't reach each other with their electrical impulses, they send the neurotransmitters to do the communicating. Then we have something called neuropeptides, and they stimulate hundreds of activities in the brain and in the body, including your food intake or your learning or your taste and smell or your memory. They are part of your neurotransmitters, but they're heavier and have a longer lasting effect. And then one other area, or one other uh, medical term that I want to go over is something called a receptor. It's a cell, usually a neuron that receives the stimuli from the neuropeptides and the neurotransmitters. So we now have something called neuroplasticity. And all that means is that our brain continually reorganizes itself by forming new neural connections throughout our life. And I know, there are times when, somebody does have a traumatic brain injury and they don't recover. Um, but there are many that have, traumatic brain injuries that do recover. So, what causes harm to our brains? What are the things that can happen that could cause a brain whether damage to our brain, whether it's intentional or not intentional? Well, one of the things, like I just said, a brain injury. Especially people that like football players. They have a lot of brain injury from what the sport does to them. So, that's not necessarily considered a traumatic brain injury, or maybe it is, but, a lot of times a traumatic brain injury is like, having a car accident or something, or falling down and falling on your head, cracking your skull open, damaging your brain. But other things that can cause our brain to deteriorate is a traumatic event, a traumatic, stressful event, or having unending stress in our life, or experiencing and dealing with abuse, or negative emotions. Carrying negative emotions throughout our life can wreak havoc on our brain. So how can a negative emotion wreak havoc? Well, let's take anger for a second, and let's see how that can change your brain. So what happens in our body when we're angry? We usually have a cause of a rise of cortisol, and having continual high cortisol levels can cause your neurons to accept too much calcium through its membranes. Having calcium overload can make your cells fire too frequently and then die off. And you have two areas in your brain that can affect, can affect negatively. Two specific areas in your brain that calcium overload, having anger, in your body for a very long time, that's producing this calcium overload. It can affect two specific areas. One of them is called your prefrontal cortex, and the other is called the hippocampus, right? So your prefrontal cortex, it helps you make good decisions. It helps you make, plans for the future. And the hippocampus is where your short-term memory happens. So when those two areas get affected, you possibly could start not making good decisions, or your short-term memory is gone. You can reach into the back of your brain and remember something from 20 years ago, but something that just happened, a few moments ago is hard, for you to remember. So elevated cortisol can cause a loss of neurons in the prefrontal cortex and prevent you from making decisions. And then it can affect your hippocampus and your short-term memory. Another thing that elevated cortisol levels can do is decrease your serotonin. And serotonin is a hormone called a happy hormone. So if your serotonin is affected, you could be more angry, right? So it's like a vicious cycle. You're living in anger, but because you're not producing serotonin, you're even that much more angry. You can start to develop aggressive behavior and even depression. So it's kind of this vicious cycle, right? But because of neuroplasticity, we have ways that we can rewire and cause new neural connections in our brains. And I really, really recommend, look into the work of Dr. Amen or Dr. Bresden. Dr. Bresden is doing a lot of work with Alzheimer's patients and having a lot of success in reversing it. Dr. Amen does a lot of work with individuals like sports, football players and so forth that have damaged their brain from the sport. And he, has these specific scans that he can even look at and determine where in the brain is deteriorating, and then give therapeutic advice on how to fix your brain. It's pretty fascinating. His work is pretty fascinating. He's got some really good books. So what are ways that we can, cause these new neural connections? Well, one of them is love your brain. Love your brain to the point where you're going to protect it and take care of it, right? Another way is get good sleep. Sleeping is so important to your whole overall body, but especially to your brain. When you sleep, your body starts, goes through this detox activity where it just gets rid of the chemicals and, the things that need to be excreted from our body. That's why a good night's sleep is so critical for the health of your body. Stop poisoning your brain is another way, okay? With chemicals that you're putting on your body or in your body. Take seriously if you're starting to feel, or others are pointing out to you that you've got some memory problems. If you're starting to feel those, and if others are starting to sense it, really take it seriously and do some work to try to rewire your brain. Have a great diet, a brain healthy diet, which means good protein, good fiber, and omega-3s. So yeah, you could take a supplement and get your omega-3s, or you could get it through food like walnuts and good oils. Notice more about what you love about your life and not what you hate. And that's more of, living a life in gratitude. And I know when bad things have happened, I know this was something that I lived with for a long time. I could spend most of my time just thinking about this doesn't work, or that's not happening, or, whatever, looking at the negative part of my life as opposed to looking at what's good in my life. It's a paradigm shift that we need to make. It's living a life of gratitude. And notice what you love about people as opposed to what frustrates you about them. If your spouse frustrates you, try to ignore those things. If there's something that, it's just he's not going to change or she's not going to change, then just kind of put those on a back burner and just focus on what's good and beautiful about them. Develop a resilience in your life, right? Don't look at your handicaps. Look at what you're good at. I am not good at math, so I could focus on, I hate math, right? I hate it and I'm not good at it. I guess if I put a lot of effort into it, maybe I would be okay with it. But I don't have a desire. It frustrates me, doing, things like calculus and, things like that, or even algebra. So I'm not going to focus on that. I have other strengths that I'm good at, and I'm going to focus more on that. So become resilient to the things that are not good, or that you think are not good in your life, right? Try to avoid as much as possible having a traumatic event. Protect your brain. If you ride a motorcycle, wear a helmet. Do things that are wise in protecting your brain. Try to reduce the amount of stress in your life. And that's something that should really be taken seriously. How are your social interactions? Are you finding that you're isolating yourself more and more? I know we've lived for the past 2.5 years being told that we had to isolate ourselves. That was not wise, that was not healthy, and should not ever happen again. We should never do that again. I mean, obviously, if you are sick, then you should stay away from people. But if you are healthy, there's absolutely no scientific proof that you should not be around people. So the social distancing that we have created in our society is very damaging and very unhealthy. Um, you could spend some time in meditating. Now, I meditate on the Word of God. I like to read the Word of God. I like to read the truth of what the Word of God tells me. And that is, a means for me to renew my mind, strengthen my mind, and live in truth and undo some of the things that were put upon me all my life, and to know, who my Father thinks that I am. Manage your emotions. And I'm going to talk a little bit about that once I, get through my list here. But, manage your emotions like stress, like anger. Deal with your anger. Work on and removing the anger. Okay? Find ways to learn. We should be learning every day. Read. We should be reading. You know, just doing new things to help our brains grow. Our diet is so important, that we are not filling our body with chemical processed foods. Whole, real food the way God created food. If you have a budget and if you can afford it, organic. But if you can't, then just eating whole, real food is so much better than fast food and processed foods. Exercise. And this is something that I've had to work really hard at, but I am pushing through, and I'm very excited with my new exercise regime. So it's so important, and I have to say it does make me feel better. I don't know why I've resisted it, for so long, but exercise, it's critical. It's critical to the health and well-being, and it doesn't have to be, go join a gym and do all that kind of stuff. I mean, just go outside for a walk, a nice healthy walk. Build up your cardiovascular, your heart rate, get your heart rate going, and enjoy nature, enjoy being outside, and try to have new experiences in your life. That so helps our brains to grow and be healthy and create some new neurotransmitters going on there. Get those the rewiring of your brain. One of the things, as I said, just a few minutes ago about emotions, get your emotions in control. And one of the ways that can be helpful in doing that, obviously is, healing any emotional wounds that you have. I mean, if you've experienced abuses, whether physical, emotional, sexual, spiritual abuse, any of those abuses, don't live with it. And don't think that because it happened so long ago and you don't even think about it. If you haven't gotten healing in those areas, it's still there. It's still in there. And in it bubbles up every now and then. So it would behoove you to deal with those emotions. But one of the ways that you can get emotional support, while you're in the process of doing that, of getting that healing, is using essential oils. And so essential oils, number one of the great things about essential oils is they're safe, barring you're getting a good oil. And I would not purchase essential oils from the drugstore or Marshalls, those discount home goods. I would not buy essential oils there. I would only get essential oils from companies that I trust and that I know about, that I know that they're 100% pure, that I can look up the GCMS test that tells me what my oil scientifically consists of. They do the testing on each oil. and I can get those reports. So I caution you to be careful with the oils that you use. Now, I personally use doTerra and Aromahead. Those are the two companies that I purchase my oils from. And those are two companies that I can get those GCMS reports from. And I know where their oils are being sourced from, which countries they're being sourced from. And so I trust that those oils are pure. So, what oils help? Well, the mint family. The mint family, well, let me just take a step back too. I'm not sure if I said this. The essential oils can get beyond your blood-brain barrier, and they can bring healing. Or let me take that back. They can aid in healing. Can't say they bring healing. They can aid in your healing, right? Mint oils are uplifting and calming, okay? Citrus oils, they're energizing, elevating. Spice oils, they intrigue, and they can bring on an excitement, a passion. Your herb oils or your grass oils are soothing oils, as well as like the tree and wood oils. They're very grounding and balancing. When I first started using essential oils, I didn't like them actually. I smelled. I wanted the oils to help me with some sleep. I was having sleep issues, and so I thought maybe some essential oils would help. And they did to a degree, but I ended up actually having mercury poisoning, which was contributing to my sleep issues. But when I started with the oils, I wanted to help me with some sleep. So of course I started with lavender, and I did not like lavender. Um, I think the only oil that I really enjoyed was like lemon, or the citrus oils. I enjoyed those. The other oils I was like, oh, I don't like these. I've got to tell you, I've been using oils now for 7 years, and my body loves the oils. And when I tried like cedarwood or vetiver, I was like, oh, I don't like those. I now love those oils. Because I feel when even if I just open up a bottle and I breathe it in, my body just feels the effect of those oils. So I diffuse every night, and it's always with at least a lavender, and I love lavender now. So my body is my body actually craves the oils. And then another segment of oils that can be calming are floral oils. So those are ways to help aid you in balancing some emotions, but also you may have to do some internal work to bring healing to your emotions. Now, to kind of wrap up our neuroplasticity segment here, is there is a bright side, a dark side to neuroplasticity, or there is a positive side, a negative side, however you want to put it, right? And why? Why do I say that? Well, so neuroplasticity makes your brain resilient, right? It helps enable you to recover from strokes or brain injuries or brain abnormalities that are happening. You can learn new ways of being and thinking and responding. Um, your brain is just this incredible part of your body. And in a lot of cases, you can overcome depression, addiction, obsessions, compulsive patterns in your life, ADHD, and other issues. So that's the bright side or the positive side of neuroplasticity. The dark side or the negative side is your brain is always learning, but the brain is neutral. The brain doesn't know the difference between good and bad. So if you are speaking constantly about how dumb you are or how ineffective you are or how frustrated you are, or how angry you are, those emotions, your brain doesn't go, oops, those are no good, we're not going to receive them. No, they're neutral. They're just going to receive what you bring in. So the neuroplasticity, can get entrenched with depression or anxiety or obsessions or overreaction or whatever. So you need to be careful that as you may be trying to heal your brain, that you are feeding it and nurturing it and giving it healthy stuff, healthy words, healthy thoughts, healthy emotions. Now, you're not going to just say, okay, I'm not going to be angry anymore. I mean, there may be a valid reason that you're angry. Like for me, I lived with anger years. I'm going to say I finally decided I needed to deal with the anger in my life. I was, oh my gosh, I think I was in my 30s. And it ebbed and flowed. I didn't always walk in anger, but it didn't take much to trigger the anger. And the anger was sort of a protective mechanism for me. I learned to use anger to protect me. Ridiculously, it wasn't a common sense type of thing to use for protection, but that's what I devised in my brain as a child. But my anger was there because I had abuses that were not dealt with, that I was not healed from. So, don't just, if you've got a lot of anger or whatever emotion you might have, if you're living in a lot of fear, get to the root of it, deal with it, and get healing from it. But don't just try to wash it away. You got to get to what brought you there, what has you operating with those emotions. It's critical, to bring full healing. And once I began to deal with the abuses, and it was entrenched mostly in the sexual abuse that I had dealt with as a child. And once I got healed from that, and I did get healed from that, the anger dissipated. And I get angry. It is an emotion that we do need to have from time to time, but not like I lived with before. So if you're healing and desiring to heal your brain, to, rewire what's going on in your brain, make sure you're feeding it good, healthy emotions and food and activity and, all of the things that we talked about above or prior in this video. Now, check out some of the work of Dr. Amen. Let me see, I've gotten a listing here. Let me look. Dr. Amen has a great book called Use Your Brain to Change Your Age. Great book, right? Another author to look into is Dr. Carolyn Leaf. So she's got some books called Think, Learn, and Succeed, or Who Switched Off My Brain. Fabulous author, fabulous doctor. She's done fabulous work. Another doctor who I like, she's a psychiatrist, Dr. Kelly Brogan. Now, Dr. Brogan, I don't know if she's still in New York City. She had a psychiatric practice in New York City. And what I loved about her was she started treating her patients that were dealing with psychiatric issues and angers and depression and anxiety and stuff like that, by healing their gut and focusing on their gut. So she has a fabulous book called A Mind of Your Own. Really good book and a good read. And another good read is Dr. Colbert, Dr. Don Colbert. He has a book called The Bible Cure for Depression and Anxiety. So those are some good physicians to to maybe grab a hold and read. One book that I highly recommend is the Bible. Read it. Read what it says. Get into Proverbs, the book of wisdom. There's so much good stuff there. There's so much wisdom and knowledge just reading the book of Proverbs. If you follow the advice in the book of Proverbs, your life can change. Giving your heart to the Lord can change your life and can change your emotions. So I hope this teaching helped you. It's just a touch of what can be done for your brain. Obviously, I am not a physician. I don't work on people's brains, but I can help people with their emotions and help you look at the things that can help change your brain. So thank you for taking a few minutes and listening to my teaching. I hope that you enjoyed it. If you want to have a chat to just kind of maybe go over some issues that you feel like are going on in your life, and some things that you feel like are happening in your brain with your emotions. You got emotions you're dealing with. You can't get rid of those emotions, those negative emotions. You don't want them, but they're still there. You can't figure out, how do I get rid of it? Let's talk. Let me see what I can do to coach you along to get you out of that mode of living. I'm here to help. I'd be happy to chat with you. There's a link below. We can have a discovery call, a 30-minute free discovery call to see how we might be able to work together, how I might be able to help you. If not, I guide you in a different direction, but I do want to help, and I look forward to chatting with you. So enjoy this teaching, the rest of your day, whatever time you may listen to this teaching, and God bless. Thanks again.